Hello viewers and welcome to my new video. In today's video I would like to talk to you a little bit about songwriting and actually how you can play guitar, for example. When you write a song and you write a song structure, how you can make the guitar sort of play differently so to not be as obvious actually, because you know what, I've been actually thinking about this, and it's actually really hard, and I'm sure a lot of songwriters, those of you who are watching my channel, will be able to confirm this, that it's not actually that easy to find a chord progression that, for example, hasn't been used before in some kind of way, shape or form. So in my view, a lot of that, when you actually write a song and you want that song to kind of sound different and to sound original, is to, even if you use a chord progression that maybe, has been used before, because it's so hard, like I said, to avoid that really, and to make something that sounds good and sort of makes sense musically, is to play it differently. So effectively it's to play something not in a sort of in a very, very obvious way. So I'm just going to give you an example of my most recent song that I've just released, which is called Stay Positive. And if you have not heard or seen my video to that song, I would encourage you to do that, and I'm going to leave a link, or actually might put that up on the screen somewhere here. But effectively, the way that I've approached that song has a chord progression that basically goes, it starts off in D minor, so it goes like this. It's like a bit of a play between minor and major chords to sort of create like a nice, really nice pattern. But initially, when I actually played that song, I just played those chords, and the chords in sort of the way in which I played these chords originally sounded something like this. Right, so you can effectively tell straight away that, I don't know, this to me almost sounds a little bit like sort of Oasis, like straight away you can feel, oh yeah, this is like, oh, I've heard this somewhere before, it's got that kind of like, oh yeah, D minor, A minor. I think this is C major into sort of back into sort of D minor again. So it's kind of like, oh, that maybe someone might, if they heard this, they might think, oh, that's a bit of a kind of like middle of the road kind of choice of chords, for example, even though I don't necessarily think that it is. But if you hear it played that way, right? So there you go. So this is like a really, really kind of standard way of playing guitar. So for example, if you took an acoustic guitar and you just wanted to play through, that would probably be like the strumming pattern that you might want to use. Now, what I did with that song, because I also wanted to make it a bit more funky and sort of, make it a bit like the sort of rhythmic pattern to be sort of very different from that. And this is where I kind of sort of came up with that kind of choppy style of playing, if you like, more staccato kind of guitar way of playing. And effectively, the way this goes is like this. Yeah, so you can see straight away that that sounds completely different from. And that's kind of the trick. It's sometimes the trick is, I think, when writing songs, exactly in that you sort of, you can start, you know, from your structure, you know, from your start your foundation from just identifying the chords that you want to play. So okay, so I've got these chords, and also for me, and I think you'll find that in my sort of songwriting quite a lot actually, that I don't like to repeat the same pattern. So for example, like 4 times in a row. Okay, so this particular example, you can see that really clearly. So I start from this pattern, sort of like, but then I go into, so that's a different chord. That's a G chord. So the progression is almost identical, but rather than ending going back to sort of D minor, I go to G major in this particular example. Again, third time back to the original progression, back to D minor, and the last time G major, F major at the end. Yeah, so effectively, so this is what I kind of do most times when I write something. Actually, is kind of, I don't want to just repeat the same pattern over and over. So for example, if I have 4 repetitions, and in this particular song there's like 4 repetitions in the verse, I didn't want to kind of have the same kind of pattern over and over and over 4 times. So it's first time, second time it changes, third time it comes back to the same one, and the last 4th time it's different. So you know, that's kind of what I do. So again, this is something to spice up your chord progression as well. And something else to add to this, because again, this is also about building chords around the melody. Because I also, when I was writing this, and to be honest with you, I won't be able to tell you right now because I can't remember, you know, if I actually wrote this part first or whether the chords came first. It's kind of vague to me right now, but I'm, you know, I don't know if that's how I did it, but effectively. So I had that sort of guitar melody first and foremost. So it's, well, I don't know if I had it first and foremost, but that was the guitar melody that sort of would accompany the chord. So effectively it would be like that, like this. So interestingly enough, the first two reps are actually identical, even though the chord progression underneath them actually changes, so the last chord is different, but it happens to actually work perfectly for both patterns. But third rep is different. So the third rep goes, and the fourth rep is also slightly different. So effectively this just emphasizes those chords, so those chords effectively, so it's, so the last two chords, G major, F major, effectively is the same as. So I just changed that. So this is kind of my tip really for any songwriter So whether you play a guitar or you play something else, a bass guitar, a keyboard, whatever that might be, when you write a song, I think that's a good sort of idea. One is to kind of don't try and use like sort of the obvious pattern, you know, so the most obvious thing that you can come up with. Try and play around it, and again, maybe playing some like single note patterns, like if that is what you would like to go for. I'm not saying that that is necessarily what you should do, but you could do that as well, you know. So it's like experimenting with things, going around maybe some of these chords as well. Maybe sometimes finding, I didn't do it in that particular song because I just settled on. But, you know, I could do that. See what I mean? Just like sort of playing around some of these sort of notes from the scale, which is also a good thing to sort of explore sometimes. But again, if you just want to play chords, try and play them slightly differently with a different sort of strumming pattern, rhythm pattern. Try to change things around, spice them up a little bit. So when you do a chord progression, try and maybe, you know, every 2 times or whatever, every other rep, maybe change it a little bit, so to make something more interesting. It's almost like a bit of a story, you know. It goes in one direction, then it changes, then it comes back, then it goes again, you know, out again, that kind of thing. And then when you play any sort of melody, again, try maybe for that melody to be kind of different. If not each time, then you know, maybe put like an extra note, like something different that will basically spice things up and make it sound slightly different. So check out the song and you will sort of understand what I've done fully. Thanks very much for watching. I hope that some of these tips will help you in your own songwriting as well. And remember to subscribe to my channel and give this video a like, and I will see you in my next video.